Welcome back, everybody, to the October Country Comics Podcast. This is Devon.
Will.
The mother of all unicorns.
And Richard Headshot.
Wow.
He spent all week on that.
I did.
Okay, then. Richard Headshot, huh? Has nothing to do at all with what we talked about last week, I take it.
With Dick Grayson? No way.
No, not at all.
That's DC's ass.
So, yeah. No, I'm still on the Richard Headshot thing.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
That just took you right out of the game.
A little
He's
bit.
out.
I wasn't expecting it. I was like, oh.
I don't think he was either. I don't think Richard was expecting it either.
No. Okay.
Nice.
I apologize.
Well, we're back for another week. Another week's edition.
For
Issue.
And just for clarification, everyone, this is Jeremy joining us again. We don't know if he's going to be just guest appearing this week again, or if he'll be staying on with us for quite some time.
What do you mean?
Send out a poll on Instagram and Twitter. Should we keep him on?
Probably not.
I appreciate the honesty.
I only really have things to say about Jonathan Hickman and
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
So yeah.
Well,
What to start off with this week? We've all
well,
kind of come at.
again, like we have to kind of start our podcast off with depressing news for all you longtime
Again.
comic and especially Marvel fans out there. This past Thursday, June 25th, Joe Sinnott passed away. Jolton Joe Sinnott, legendary inker for Marvel. Inked Jack Kirby on several books, one being Captain America, the other being Fantastic Four. Had one of the longest running runs on Fantastic Four as an inker.
Wow.
He did a lot of stuff on Thor. He's one of the original Marvel bullpen, one of the original group that Stan Lee put together.
And
That would explain the adjective.
just to clarify, like it's not even that it's like longest run on Fantastic Four. It's like we were there for the first Galactus, the first Silver Surfer,
Yeah.
the first Inhumans, the first Black Panther, Iron Man, the first Thanos, which was also, I believe, Firefox, and Drax the Destroyer.
So many legends.
There was a lot of firsts.
Yeah.
And Joe Sinnott was there, and they were all with Jack Kirby and Stan for the most part.
Yep. Jim Starlin.
Yep.
I actually never knew that. I never knew that Joe inked Starlin. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was just it was what, Iron Man 55, 56,
Iron Man 55.
and I think like 58 or something like that, and then he did some like later on down the road.
Yeah. No, yeah, I wasn't aware of that because I know, yeah, it was the big thing. I mean, that's where Iron Man 55 is where Jim Starlin created Thanos, and it was like kind of like this. It was for the most part, it was kind of a throwaway thing, but when when you hear Jim Starlin talk about it, it was like, yeah, I had a really good out because he's like, when I originally drew the character, it was. I kind of always wanted Thanos to be a lot bigger, and he is a lot bigger later on.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets away with that because the Thanos that they fight in Iron Man 55 isn't actually Thanos. It's like an android that he sends in his place to probe planets before he goes there. So it's like really cool that he kind of adds that in.
Yeah, just a lot of
but yeah, no,
unfortunate
that's actually
losses for the comic book world recently.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's just one of those things. I mean, and yeah, it's just actually kind of cool. I didn't know that he inked that issue of Iron Man.
There's a lot of them. Joe is also a local artist, being born in Saugerties. He's also a World War II vet.
Oh.
Yeah.
He served in the Navy.
He also he flew a lot. He flew World War II planes as well, like a lot of the planes that fought in the battles.
Yeah, a lot of the guys in Marvel at that point were vets.
Yeah,
Just for World War II.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, it was only 20 years after the war.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of stuff. I mean, and actually, Joe Sinnott, the for me personally, it was the first big local comic book store signing I'd ever been to, and not only been to, but I was also a part of the store at that time. So we had a bunch of the local artists and writers in to sign. It was we had Terry Austin, Joe Sinnott, Ramona Fradon, Todd DeZago, Ron Mars, Dan Green, Jim Starlin was here.
Oh.
I didn't realize Dan Green was local.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, I think Dan Green's a little further north. Like
Okay.
same thing with Ron Mars. Like a lot of them carpooled down with Ron Mars. Like,
Ron Mars was from Kingston.
That
yeah,
I
but
knew.
he's further north now because I know a lot of. I think at that time, again, this is almost like what 10 years ago. When because a couple of them all came down together. I remember it was like Ron Mars, Dan Green. I don't think we could get Herb Trimpe at the time. But yeah, like everyone was Matthew Dow Smith was here. Matthew Dow Smith has done a lot of stuff too. He's been on he did a lot of the Doctor Who stuff for IDW. He even did some of the Supernatural comics for Wildstorm at the time when it was.
You made me flustered a little bit. Ron Mars was in this store.
Yeah.
And I love Ron Mars.
Yeah, Ron Mars. That's why I have that Green Lantern poster hanging up because he signed it when he was down here.
And I love him. For
Yeah.
Witchblade.
Oh yeah.
I
Well, I
love
mean,
him.
he's like the only other person that like made Witchblade like worth
relevant.
reading.
Yeah, I think it's funny with him. I actually went to school with his nephew, and his nephew used to brag all the time when we were in
That's kind of amazing.
grade school, like, oh, my uncle's a comic book writer, and this is when like Marvel cards were like the biggest thing on the face of the planet,
Yeah.
in the early '90s. And
And you're like, yeah, who? Well, yeah, what does he write? He writes Green Lantern, and everyone's like, what?
What's a
Well,
Green
no,
Lantern?
at the time it was Silver Surfer being the big thing, and it's like
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
care about Silver Surfer back then, so it's like yeah, whatever, blah blah. And turns out years later,
You
Yeah.
care about
it's
Silver
like oh,
Surfer.
Yeah.
Ron Mars. I was like,
I
oh,
love Ron
my
Mars.
friend's
Nah,
name was
Ron-
Leaf Mars, so it's like
Ron-
okay, it all makes
Ron
sense
Mars,
now.
like he got like a raw deal at DC, like in the beginning because he's like, they're like, yeah, you get to write Green Lantern. He's like, oh my god, I can't. Like I've heard, like he told me the story when he was down here for the signing. He goes, yeah, I was all excited because I was like, I got to write my favorite character. And then they were like, oh, by the way, you have to kill him. And he's like,
What?
What? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, we want to get rid of Hal Jordan. We want to like make someone else Green Lantern. And he was like, well, who's going to become Green Lantern? He goes, that's your job. So he like he's
Wow.
not only does he have to like come up with this thing of like killing like one of his favorite superheroes, but then he's like, now I also have to come up with a new character because we're not giving it to Guy, we're not giving it to John, we're not using Kilowog, like because they were like killing they killed everybody essentially, and then you found out later that they weren't dead and things like that when
What?
but yeah, they were like, yeah, come up with a new character, make it happen. He's like, sure, no one's gonna hate me at all for this.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine. But yeah, it was just like this like horrible, like just the 90s were horrible for killing characters.
Yeah.
You had Dan Jurgens got the rap for killing Superman. You had R.A. Salvatore got the rap for killing Chewbacca, and then you had Ron Mars killing Hal Jordan.
Oh yeah.
At least Chuck Dixon and the boys there only broke Batman's
Yeah.
back. Thank God they didn't kill him.
yeah.
Just piggybacking, my first interaction with Joe Sinnott was actually at Barnes & Noble.
Oh yeah.
I was working, a friend of mine, Barnes & Noble, thought they were going to do like a Get Pop Cultured week, month, whatever it was. And a friend of mine was like, oh, well, let me reach out to all the local talent in the area. And we had him, and just one of the most genuine moments with Joe, it was just adorable to me. Someone asked, how did you get into Marvel? And he tells the story. I apologize, I don't remember it. Like, I'm talking almost 5-6 years ago, so I don't
Yeah.
remember it. And the kid asked, well, how did you work on, your art? And Joe goes, how many times a day do you draw? Kid told him, and Joe goes, triple it. Don't stop. And I just thought it was a really sweet moment. Like, and I'm paraphrasing the hell out of the story.
It was funny because I actually And again, I had actually seen Joe at a panel at New York Comic Con. It was either the second year or third year I went for. It was the second or third year of New York Comic Con. I don't remember which one, but they had the '60s bullpen at that time. What was left of the '60s bullpen. So you had Stan, you had Joe Sinnott, you had all these guys, and they were talking about it, and I want to say it was Joe Sinnott. I'm almost 100% positive it was Joe, who they were talking to him about. Yeah, what made you get into the art? And he's sitting there. He goes, yeah. He's like, well, we used to go and we'd pick up the comics, and then we would redraw them on the pages. Like we'd redraw them on blank pages. And we would do all the detail and everything. He goes, and it wasn't till years later when I actually got into the business, when I found out that they did them on these giant pieces of these cardstock things, and that's how you were able to do all those details without going blind. He's like, yeah, I didn't realize it till I got in the business, and it's like, yeah, you draw it on this, and then we scan it and shrink it down.
That's so funny.
He's like, so by the time we got there, I was an expert because I'd already been doing the stuff real tiny. So I was like, I'm 100% almost 100% sure it was Joe on the panel who was saying that. But like I said, it was everyone at that point, and that was that had been '07 when I saw that panel.
Mm-hmm.
And and yeah, they were up there. I think it was him. It was Ramita Senior. It was so obviously Stan Lee was there, and I think it was the first time a couple of them had been on stage with Stan in a long time, because Stan didn't live in New York at that point. So a lot of them being local, and I think it was Stan even said it was so good to just be up there with everybody again.
Mm-hmm. I think the funny part about Joe, I started watching a lot of old interviews with him that are still out there, and he was talking about when he really first started doing his Marvel work. I forget who he was originally working with, and it was just kind of work through him, this other guy, and then Kirby saw his work and was like, I want him to do this issue, and it was one of the, I want to say it was one of the horror stories or something like that. And then he was asked to come back and do the next one. And then he just kept working with him, and he's talking about it. And that was in 1962 that he did his first Kirby work, I think. Yeah. And then he said from there on, he had done hundreds of, books with Kirby and Stan, but he had never met Kirby or talked to Kirby until 1972. So a full 10 years. These guys are working together and with Stan, and the two of them had never met, and then they finally met at a con, something that Marvel put together, and then he said 2-3 years went by. I think it was in '75 where he met up with Kirby again, and then they still continued to do work on and off, but they never met up or talked to each other again after that. It was just all this history, and it's just it was just work.
So
weird.
Are you getting him okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
just
fine.
because the mic's up a little bit.
I adjusted for it.
Okay,
it's fine.
cool.
I'm gonna move like crazy too. I'm sorry.
You're
bad
good.
at
No, he
sitting
was just
still.
saying before, you were he was had a you were real quiet on the last podcast because you were way far away from the mic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, yeah, it's just crazy how a lot of that stuff works though. Just people. I remember also that actually happened with I was getting something signed by Brian Michael Bendis at a con. And at the time, he was working on New Avengers. It was the Dark Reign stuff, and you had, I forgot who was drawing the issues around then. It was I think it was Jimmy. I think it was Jimmy Chung or I can't remember. But I remember that I think it was Jimmy Chung. I think he was drawing those issues for Dark Reign of New Avengers. And I was getting something signed by Bendis, and out of nowhere, this guy just comes up. He's like, "Hey, you're Brian, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, what's going on?" He goes, "I'm drawing your New Avengers book for the next 2 arcs." He goes, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you." They never met.
That's amazing.
And at that point, they already had 3 issues out. So they hadn't aside from talking through email or whatever, they had never met. And he was like, "Oh, it's so good to meet you. It's nice to." I was like, that's just crazy stuff, man. And it's like, and yeah, it's like, and actually, oh, sorry, Steve.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, I guess after a while, like we look at it differently. They look at it as, I'm not gonna say a paycheck, but they look at it as like a 9 to 5.
Yeah, I guess that could be part of it.
You know.
I mean, it's also funny because like I remember, actually, Mike, who used to own the store, I think we talked about it before on the podcast. His uncle Frank Giacoya was an inker for Marvel, and actually was friends with Joe Sinnott, and that's actually, Mike would call Joe Sinnott because he lived up here was his Uncle Joe.
Oh.
Like they would just like that was like Joe Sinnott was like Mike met him when he was Mike was a little kid when he met him, and he just kind of like became real good friends with him, and he was always like, yeah, no, your family, call me Uncle Joe, like I was, because he was good friends with Frank, and it's just really crazy, just the way everything kind of like meets up in life like that.
It's amazing how, I mean, especially for just to say how the industry currently works. I mean, it's an industry where, unlike most entertainment mediums, you don't have to be in the same room with anyone. This, especially with current technology, you can just email back and forth with people and never actually have to meet with them in person.
Skype,
so
any sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine having to do all that stuff? I mean, there was no email. I mean, that was literally, you were just getting letters in the mail or a phone call.
Yeah.
Yep.
And God forbid you weren't
Mail was
home.
late.
Because I mean, back then I don't even know, were there even answering machines then? No, because it was
Not
all
that
still
I'm-
like
yeah.
rotary phones.
Well, I know a lot of those guys too. Like a lot of them were from this area. Since
Yeah.
Marvel was based out of the city, they were kind of all from up here. And I mean, you got to think about all the guys that like before are still up here. And I remember reading stories, and it may have been a Joe Sinnott story where he was talking about how he was down at the office, and this might not be Joe either, but they were down at the office or whatever, and they end up going, oh, we need somebody to ink this page, blah blah blah. So he takes it back with him. So how does he get it back? He's got to take the train all the way back down there again to drop some of the stuff off in a timely fashion. And it's you think about that, and it's like, okay, well, it's not really that far, but I guess it's
Yeah, but I mean,
you got to drop a couple pages off. It takes you 3 hours to do so, plus the ride back.
Yeah, well, the ride down, the ride back. I mean, and it's funny, you sit there and you're like, oh yeah, well, by the standards of like cost for train fare back then, you're like, oh, that's fairly cheap. But then you're like, oh wait, no, like the dollar it cost to ride the train, like I mean I don't know what 60 standards were for train fare, but the dollar or whatever it would cost to ride the train is like the equivalent of, like, for people now is what $50 is the equivalent to. It's crazy. Like,
I guess the other thought too is, like, what was their? They probably didn't even have a page rate back then. I'm sure they got like just a normal, like, finish an issue and here you go.
I know page rates became a thing later. Like I know in the 70s page rates definitely became a thing. I don't know about in the 60s.
I watched a documentary recently about Stan Lee, and I think page rates were a thing back in the day. I think that's how he was paid. I mean, he was a writer.
I vaguely remember him.
I believe
I know that
he talked about it back when he was writing Captain America, before he even created anybody.
Yeah,
like that was just when he was hired on.
But I mean, even then, page rates. I mean, you're talking even for artists. I mean, the page rate was. I mean, it was practically nothing for artists, and then like.
Yeah.
I mean, it was even less for writers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even. It's crazy. And especially considering when you look at what page rates are now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember 10 years ago when I was working with someone on a book, like, and it's just like, people who are like freelancing and like we're just trying to get something published. It was a friend of mine wanted $25 a page. And when you're doing a 24-page book and you're working minimum wage at a part-time job, it's like, oh my God, like that's a lot of money. And now it's like, especially like when I like run into like friends who have gone to art school, they're like, oh no, man, I charge like $150 a page. I'm like, whoa. I was like, that's a little too rich for my blood. It's like, I'm a business owner. I ain't got money.
Well, I mean,
ain't nobody got time for that.
No, man, that's the thing, and it's just. But again, it's just crazy, and it's just crazy to think, like...
Well, what was it, Scotty Young gets paid an absurd amount for variant covers.
Scotty Young
It
gets,
was like
I don't know what the dollar amount actually
it's
is,
some
but I know
absurd.
It's at least 4 figures
Yeah.
per cover. At least.
And that's
And like
Which are the
not
most
writing.
simple covers
here's
on
the
the
thing.
face of
Yeah.
the planet.
and like Will, like when I say like 4 figures, I mean like I don't know the actual dollar amount because I've heard absurd numbers and
I've
like,
heard
that can't
absurd
be
numbers
right.
as well.
I want to say anywhere from $1,000 to $9,000 is what he charges for a variant cover.
Oh yeah.
I wonder what Clayton Crane gets then, if you think about the difference in work.
Well, then,
And I love both of
in
them,
that
but
same caliber, you could go David Lynch. God, that would have been a trip. David Finch, Mike Mayhew. I'm trying to think. Jesus, Alex Ross. I'm sure he don't get anywhere in his art studio.
I think Alex Ross at this point has drawn everything he's ever gonna draw, and just sits there and just like, yeah, how much? Like, what are you looking for? Okay, and
Maybe.
he just goes to his computer and just recolors an old page.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
He's like, I'm done. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore.
I mean, his stuff is nuts.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that's also why you're never gonna see a book really drawn by Alex Ross anymore. And just because I think that's one of those things, he's just kind of done. He's done it for so long that
I like him better on covers anyway.
yeah. But again, like I think all his covers are just things that are already done. It's not new. It's like J. Scott Campbell. I don't think J. Scott Campbell's done a new cover.
I think that in his spare time, like I'm sure he has like a whole laptop or a whole room full of different poses for women.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And he just literally just like copies everything else into it.
No, yeah, he just recolors it.
Yeah.
Like I'll guarantee, like I'm telling you, I'm almost 100% positive. I will one day find out which cover it is, but I know that Catwoman anniversary cover that he did, I've seen that pose before. I've seen it with something else.
Yeah,
And
it's I think it's an actual photo.
okay.
Yeah, I think because I follow him on Instagram,
Yeah.
and that's the fun part about his stuff. When something big comes out, he'll then put out his own private line of exclusives,
Yeah.
and he'll tease you each day, and then he'll drop it, and then he'll show you all his source material. I think other than like the, I'm doing a motion as if people can see it. Other than the finger thing she's doing by her face, that I think that's an actual pose that she does.
No, but I think like again, I also want to say that cover is just another cover he's done
Oh, it
somewhere
might be.
and it's recolored. And maybe just like
It
some
might be.
tweaks to the cheekbones
Yeah.
or the eyes or something.
Took off the red hair.
But yeah, no, it's just all crazy stuff, and
Sucks.
and it also sucks now too. Like when you start thinking about, like I said, I mean, the original Marvel's bullpen. I mean, there's not many of them left now. I mean,
Roy Thomas.
Roy Thomas was a later addition.
No, he was pretty much from the giddy up, I think. Like
he wasn't until like the late '60s, early '70s. Like,
I would still consider that
eh.
part. I mean, if you
But
look
I
at
mean,
some of the earliest, like photos and lineups
Yeah.
from that bullpen, like he's.
But I mean, also, look at you're
Gil-
talking.
oh.
You're talking like Jim Steranko was like I think one of the last remaining
Yep.
ones, and I'm trying to think of like who else like that I know like solid like
There's a couple in there. There's not many left.
yeah no, and that's the thing that sucks is like all these people who were the firsts, you know.
And that's the thing when you really think about it. It's not like the same characters that were popular then are still popular now, if not more. And it's like anything that's come out since then is still not anywhere near that popular for the most part. So it's like guys.
There's a couple things. I mean, there's not everything.
There's a couple,
but you have. I mean, like most notably, most recently, I would say
Robbie Reyes.
You're a horrible person. No, I was gonna say Camilla Khan's Ms. Marvel is probably like one of the big like mainstay new creations, and she's just in everything, and very popular.
She's gonna be in the game.
Yeah.
Not to mention, if you want to go 30 years ago, Venom's still around, and Venom's seen how many different incarnations, just from like people who have worn the suit and.
Well, that's the thing. But think about like the staples of like what's going on in the MC. And here's the thing. Let's do this from like pop culture standpoint. Like
yeah.
the most popular stuff is still the original stuff.
Yeah.
Also, while I'm still thinking about it, Miss Marvel #1. Also Joe Sinnott cover. I think the whole book.
Nice.
Kamala Khan?
No. The original Miss Marvel.
Carol.
It was Carol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nova #1. Captain Britain #1, which is a British book, but
yeah,
that was a Claremont. Actually, everybody was on that. It was like Claremont, Larry Lieber, bunch of people are on.
I'd actually be interested to find out if Joe Sinnott was like one of the people like that had to fix some of the early John Romita Jr. stuff, because that was like a big thing. Like before John Romita Jr. really found his groove with his art style, it was like people have told me like I actually still haven't tracked them down to look at them, but his early Marvel stuff is like some of the worst like Marvel stuff you'll ever see from that era.
Oh.
And like they had like a bunch of people try and fix it with like different inkers and stuff. And I really like John I like John Romita Jr. stuff from like the 90s Spider-Man till about when he teamed up with Mark Millar.
I really like his Daredevil stuff. Romita Jr. was a good Daredevil artist.
Yeah. Well, but again, and that's the thing though, you have an inker on him who's an amazing inker. I mean, Klaus Janson is a guy who I don't even know like how Klaus like even inks his current stuff, because it's like it's literally just boxes.
Yeah.
I think the last good thing I actually enjoyed from John Romita Jr. was the what was it?
Superman Year One?
No. No, not that book.
I really wasn't being sarcastic.
No, I actually really liked him on the Captain America book that he did with Rick Remender.
Yes.
Yeah. And
That
it was all
was
the
good.
Dimension Z stuff was really good. That I really enjoyed. I also enjoy it like I think it was cool for him and gave him a little bit more flexibility, because it was like he didn't have to draw buildings all day long. Like that's also one of the big problems like with like a lot of the Marvel stuff is the characters are always in a city and there's always buildings and there's always windows.
So help
and there's
me God
always
if you don't know perspective, damn
and
it.
then there's always cars who also have windows and doors and mirrors.
And
I don't
people.
envy them. I don't envy
No,
them.
And
like-
a goat.
And could you imagine just being, and now granted, I mean, having to draw all that must be, like
Taxing.
just taxing in general. But now, I mean, then being the guy who has to ink all of it and then add all the shading and all the depth and just like, and then God forbid you have an artist who doesn't know what they're doing. Then at that point you're just redrawing the book. I mean, I've heard stories from Terry Austin. I've read interviews with Frank Miller, where Frank Miller, because he was originally, his was more of a writing story, because he actually took over writing Daredevil, because he was like, the guy who I was working with, he didn't like the writing style, so he eventually just started like drawing the issues how he wanted and just inserting his own dialogue, and then eventually just kind of took over Daredevil. At least that's like the story I read. But yeah, it's just crazy. And I've heard horror stories from other inkers like, yeah, no, it's like I literally had to redraw the book. Like they're credited as the artist, but I should have been too.
I mean, it's it's a crazy world out there when it comes to the artists. I definitely don't envy their world, but to see what they've accomplished, especially someone with Joe's resume and just the history that he helped create, it's an unfortunate loss, but it just goes to show you we got to value who we got left at this point.
No, definitely, and it's.
Well, I think it's also, kind of paying tribute to the guys that were here, because how many people talk about Joe Sinnott, and again, as far as pop culture goes, every character you see, he worked on, and everybody knows Stan, but
And some know Jack, but
Well, that's
mostly.
No, everyone knows Jack
everyone
Kirby.
knows Jack.
Everyone knows Kirby.
I think
Not as many
most
as
people.
No,
do,
not
but-
as many as Stan, but that's like I'm gonna weird backpedal something else. With Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, that's what I liked about the end of it. You get to the credits scene, and it's Birds of Prey created by Chuck Dixon and whoever the artist was.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was a really cool thing because, you know, not like for me, Chuck Dixon was my Batman. He was my Batman writer. 90s, man.
That kind of makes me want to go back through some of the, you know, first X-Men movies and stuff and see whose names are listed, because I know Stan fought to get Ditko's name on the first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
But
I don't think Claremont. I know in Gifted, Claremont is, and this is prior to him coming on to try to help them with the last season.
Well,
in the beginning, he's listed as created by.
Yeah, but you also have to. I mean, they also have to have Kirby's name on there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the other thing too. Is I also get like really upset with like a lot of people. You know, and yes, I understand. Like, you have to understand how like a lot of things worked back then, just in terms of like crediting and just the way the companies worked and how they did stuff. And it was like, you know, it was a very like fast and loose way that they did a lot of stuff. It was like, okay, well,
whoever was around.
Yeah.
You know, you
like,
I need you to work on this. Like,
yeah,
do
but not even that.
Boom,
It was
boom,
just
boom,
like
boom.
like a lot of people try to sit there and they try to be like, oh yeah, well Stan was this and Stan Lee was that because he robbed everyone of their creative credits. And I'm like, Stan, I didn't actively rob anyone of anything. Like, and he's actually like, you know, and like a lot of people sit there and they talk about like the falling out that him and Jack Kirby had. But him and Jack Kirby, like, he actually went to see Jack, like, before he died.
Mm-hmm.
And they, like, buried the hatchet, like, they buried the hatchet and they were still really good friends. And it's just one of those things where I look at it, it's like, okay, yes, I think that a lot of the stuff is, should it be written by, or, like, it's written by Stan. But if you want to argue that the Marvel method at the time, which is the artist draws the book and then the writer writes the dialogue in, if you want to say plotted by Jack Kirby, sure, fine, go for it. You know, but at the same time, it's like, it's not discredit. Like, Jack Kirby still drew it. He still got credit for it. He's still listed as a creator. So I don't really understand why people are, like, always trying to, like, make it sound like Stan Lee robbed everybody of everything that they did.
Well, Stan even says in an interview, and I believe it's in like a Ditko documentary, where, you know, if he said, if people think that I created Spider-Man, I'm not gonna say otherwise. Yeah. He's like, and still, it seems like a dick move, but again, like, you know, he did have a hand in it. So
yeah, but you gotta remember something. Like, Stan was very particular about how he wanted Spider-Man designed. Mm-hmm. And he even says, in every story I've ever heard him talk about was, I went to Jack first. And Jack did not draw the character the way I wanted him drawn. I told him, I was like, I don't want the character heroic. I want him to look like an average guy. And he goes, and no disrespect to Jack, but he can't do normal. Everything Jack Kirby draws is big, heroic, I'm the guy kind of stuff. And he went to Steve Ditko and he told Steve Ditko, I want him to look like this. And yes, you know, you have Steve Ditko is credited as co-creator of Spider-Man because he did design the suit. He did design the other things about it. And then there's like other things that you have, like, you know, and then they are the big argument of contention right now has always been the fact that you have, well, Jack Kirby designed the red and blue part. Okay, but how defined was it? Like, and if Jack Kirby did the red and blue, was that Stan? Was that Jack who brought this up? Like,
well, now there's no one you can ask.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I there's a lot of stuff you can look over, but again, it's all stuff that, you know, I've never heard or seen Stan Lee say a bad thing about anyone he's worked with. I don't think I've ever seen an interview or read anything. I even read Stan's autobiography when I was younger. And I don't think he ever badmouthed any of the creators he worked with. Not once.
Not to my knowledge, from what I've seen.
I just think that after a while, you have these creative powerhouse teams, Jack and Stan, and then Claremont and Byrne, and you get burned out from working
No,
with
you
that
do.
person, and at that point, it wasn't like. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not like it is today, where like I'm contracted for so many issues, and then
Yeah, I mean the thing is like you also have a lot of, and I can see how like a lot of that stuff too gets like, well, I'm just as important to the creative process of this book as you are, and it's like, and to a certain degree, I think that yes, they're equally important, but at a certain point, it's like, okay, but you have to like feel out the responsibilities. It's like, look, like, are we sitting? Am I sitting down? Are we gonna Skype or email or talk on the phone about what we're coming up with the next story together? Or is the writer straight up just giving you the script and you're drawing it? At that point, it's like then you have to like weigh the responsibilities of each team member, because then you're not both like equally important to the creative like process of where the story's going.
see, here's the weird thing for me, because like if I was a writer and I'm creating a new character, I'm gonna have that idea of
Yeah.
what like, and this is just how I am. Like, I'm not gonna look at you, Devon, as the artist to go, his name's Spider-Man. Go with it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look and I'm gonna like already have like notes as to what bright colors,
Well, it's
a
like,
one piece.
The thing about when it comes to the artist versus the writer in that regard, or not even versus, but when it comes to that, it's like I can liken it to the entertainment industry, where even though an actor does not have anything to do with the technical aspect or the creation of that character in the conceptual portion, they're the ones that get a lot of credit for the story stuff, and they're the ones fans want to see on the panels, because they're the people who portray these. They're what the fans associate that with. And when it comes to comic books, unfortunately, the writer kind of gets that kind of attention more than the artist does, more commonly, from what I've observed, which is where egos kind of come into play, and people will end up clashing with each other, and it's an unfortunate unbalance that is commonplace.
The other thing too, though, is like you have to. It also depends on how a writer writes their script. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you come down to a point, and it's like, look, like a lot of times, like we even said, they're not even talking to each other.
Which is so
they're
weird to
they're
me.
writing out a script and they're sending it in, and then the company's sending it to the artist. So when you look at a script like Alan Moore,
Dear God.
Alan Moore writes full novels for scripts, straight up. Like, look in the back of like an expanded edition of Watchmen one day, and your head will explode. Because it's just so dense. Like, he talks about he even pinpoints where the loose papers of litter are blowing across the street in a panel. Like, he gives every detail. He gives every detail on how every character looks, right down to the color hair, the color eyes, if they've got freckles, if they got a buck tooth. Like, so certain writers will do all these things. So, for me personally, can I sit there and say that Dave Gibbons is a co-creator of Watchmen? In the idea that he brought what was on the page to life, yes. As far as creating the design of the characters, no. I can't say that. I can't say, given the knowledge I have of Alan Moore's scripts, that Dave Gibbons had any say in what those characters were going to look like, aside from maybe he drew their hair a little curly.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Watchmen just like the other DC characters?
It's not. They're
like Captain, or
they're the Charlton characters, but
Okay,
even
thank
then,
you.
like,
because
again,
at that
Captain
point-
Adam wasn't a big blue guy. Captain Adam was
Oh,
you know,
okay.
A big gray guy.
With though, with that being said,
the Question was a guy with a blank face, like
Blue Beetle was.
yeah. But again, like now, again, this is all stuff that now yes, granted they're based off the Charlton characters, and Alan Moore's redesigning them.
Who was Asmodeus?
You mean Ozymandias?
Whatever.
Ozymandias was based off of Johnny Thunder, or no?
That is a character I'm straight up not familiar
Thunderbolt.
with. Oh, that's right.
Peter Cannon. Peter Cannon. Thunderbolt. That's who he was based off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the thing. But again, like even then, like
because that was driving me insane for a minute.
But even then, that's like okay, like who, you get to a point. It's like okay, well, who created John Constantine? Straight up Alan Moore. And I can tell you for a fact that Alan Moore definitely wrote in. He was blonde. He was a smoker. He wore a tan trench coat.
Loose tie.
He straight up wrote that out.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that that's true for every single writer and every single character that's created, especially when you factor in the Marvel method of how they did things, which was the artist would draw the book and then they would give the pages back to the writer and the writer would fill in the dialogue, because sometimes they didn't have the time to write full scripts. So yes, can I say that I don't know if Jack Kirby came up with the names for a lot of characters like Galactus or Silver Surfer or whatever, but did he come up with the designs completely? Did he create those characters, their look and their design and everything? Yes, I can say that 100%. And Stan gave the characters a name.
Yeah,
I can see that, but the flip is completely different for Spider-Man. I can almost say for a fact that Stan Lee went in, knew exactly what he wanted, and he even says he stood there watching them draw the character. And he was just like, yeah, no, this is... And he told Jack, this is the one I'm looking for. And he went to Steve, and Steve was like, oh, yeah, no. He's like, no, Steve Ditko was my guy. I knew from the minute he drew the first character design.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things, and you get all this contention now with who created what. And it's just so weird. It's like, look, you know what? At this point, if there's so much debate, just split it.
No,
Just split it in half. Just say 50-50 and be done with it.
I mean, yeah, I guess it all kind of depends on the creative process of where it came from, but normally a lot of the time the writer kind of just gets credit just because that's kind of where it just comes from, given the current process of writing books.
Yeah, no, right. I mean definitely. I mean it's, I don't know.
It's kind of like a Bob Kane, Bill Finger kind of situation.
Well,
a lot,
and that's
actually.
The thing. That's again, Bob Kane. And anyone who's out there who's listening to this, do yourself a favor, check out Batman and Bill. It's a documentary on. I think it's on Hulu. I mean, you can find it pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
But
I've heard of it.
Batman and Bill is an amazing documentary, and it details basically a story of what happened to Bill Finger, who was essentially the co-creator, if not 85% creator of Batman.
Yeah, the primary.
Because originally when Bob Kane came up with the idea, Bob Kane was more of like a businessman, where his idea was, oh, okay, people are loving this Superman thing. I can do that. I can make something just like it and make a ton of money. So it wasn't even that he really wanted to do a comic book. He just knew that's how you would make money. It's the same idea as who's the guy who created Scientology?
Oh no, I was gonna say
Hubbard.
Tom Cruise.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, that.
I mean,
lunatic.
L. Ron Hubbard is quoted as saying that the best way to make money is to make a religion.
And that's exactly what he did.
And yeah, and everything he made,
are.
made, and then everyone takes this as gospel, oh no,
he made Tom Cruise.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So
John Travolta.
I mean,
And the lady from King of Queens or
she
whatever.
escaped. Leah
Yeah,
Remini.
she's out. She wrote a book about it.
Oh
but
my god, that.
Leah Remini.
Yeah. On a side note, though, that show is rough. That show is I've watched it.
King of Queens.
No. Her docu-series about...
Oh, she made a
exposing-
docu-series?
It's brilliant. If you ever get a chance to watch it.
I want to. Because she commented a lot on the Danny Masterson stuff.
But
and how... Because I guess he was a Scientologist, and they tried to cover up a lot of his stuff when it originally came out. So that was
I
crazy.
recommend that show for anyone that is interested, but it is a pill.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. And you feel bad for all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's a weird side note.
but yeah, no, the Bob Kane stuff. Basically, what happened was Bill Finger never officially worked for DC at the time. He worked for Bob Kane, and basically what had happened was, Bob Kane went to them with this idea, and they were like, "Cool, like we like the idea, we want to see it." So he was coming up with designs, and originally like Batman was like kind of like this circus kind of. He was like basically like the Dick Grayson character, an acrobat with this leotard, and he
Why
was
are
in
you
a
glaring
circus.
at me, Jeremy?
And because he's like,
that's right.
No, because like we're talking DC, and he's like, I don't know anything about DC. I don't like this conversation anymore.
This is Richard Headshot.
But so so then he called up Bill Finger, and he was like, hey, you know, I'm having trouble with these designs. I want to know what you think. And he was like, yeah, I'm calling the character Batman. And he's like, well, what makes him Batman? He goes, oh, you know, he runs around with this domino mask that's shaped like a bat. And he's like, and Bill Finger was like, okay,
That's stupid.
let me like work on this. And he came up with the cowl, with the cape, with the suit,
The gloves
and, like,
at the time.
the gloves at the time, and like this whole idea. And it was like, and he was like, oh, he's like, so then he went to DC the next day and was like, hey, this is my pitch. And they're like, we love it. He goes, okay, this is what we're gonna pay you. And then Bob Kane went back to Bill Finger. He said, hey, so this is how much I'm getting paid. And I don't know if he actually told Bill Finger how much he was actually making. But he's like, so this is the portion you're going to get.
You
and
fool.
and at the time, it was like, oh, wow. Like, okay, and all I have to do is draw cartoon characters? Sure. So that was how the creation of Batman happened. And I mean, and Bill Finger drew a good chunk of Batman at the time. The Golden Age Batman is like a lot of it's all Bill Finger. And basically what would happen is Bob Kane would just come in whenever the issues was due, and he would just turn in the pages and be like, yeah. So Bob Kane got credit for everything. He got credit for the drawing. He got credit for the writing. The writing was his.
Oh, this is like a Steve Jobs, Steve Woz
Yeah.
ordeal.
So like social network. Yeah.
So no, that's Facebook. Social Network's Facebook.
Yeah,
I know, but it's
that's
like
not Steve Jobs.
it's-
That's
No, I'm just saying I'm liking
Jeremy
it to
said
that.
Steve Jobs.
Oh, okay.
Will
And then
said,
I said social network.
Okay.
Who's Mark
Zuckerberg.
the Lizard King himself.
that
Which is
weirdo.
funny because they were actually talking about that, and they were like, people were breaking down scenes that like none of this ever actually happened in real life. This isn't at all like, they're like, the one guy was like, I just didn't think it was gonna work, so I sold Mark all my crap.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't even.
It's a weird because like
And he's like, and the one guy was like, yeah, for a while I couldn't go out in public around my local neighborhood because everyone thought I was this horrible human being because of like what they made me look like in the movie.
Yeah, there's a scene now everyone's reenacting where he's like, "You sold my stock."
Yeah.
And he's screaming at him. It's Andrew Garfield. He's screaming at him.
That's the character.
People keep reenacting that scene on
Yeah.
Twitter for some reason, but
So
I never saw that movie. I had no
neither
interest.
did I.
And then when like all the things came out that this is nothing but bullshit,
yeah,
I was like, oh, this just solidified it even harder.
well, that's kind of
for
how
me.
I felt partially about like a lot of the inaccuracies in Bohemian Rhapsody. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So he never actually broke up with the band.
Oh yeah, they never broke up.
They never broke up. There was
a
never
lot
this-
of timeline things in that movie too, which is funny because everybody that saw that movie was like, "No, this is how it happened," because I just saw the movie, and it's like, okay, well, go
Read a
watch the
book.
documentaries then.
Yeah, read a book.
There's definitely like some switching of the. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the movie, but knowing a lot about the Queen's history
The Queens.
knowing a lot about Queen's history, I know where the historical inaccuracies were,
Yeah,
and I was like,
and
all right,
I didn't-
I can see the stretch.
The one thing that I just want to always point out that always tickled me endlessly in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie is the little nod to current Queen that Adam Lambert gives. Oh, no one? Okay. When he hooks up with that guy at like the bar, like with the mustache and the cowboy hat, that's Adam Lambert.
Oh wow!
Right? Like whoever.
Oh, is that the guy he introduces to his parents at the end?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
No, that was his.
That was the one.
That was the
cleaning,
partner
or-
he ends up with
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
he dies. Are you talking about the one,
When
the
he's-
trucker?
Yeah, the trucker.
The
Sorry.
trucker that he sees for the first time.
Uh-huh.
That's actually Adam
That
Lambert.
is Adam Lambert, and I
That's
thought that was
great.
like so cute that they were like, "We're Adam. You want a little cameo in this movie?"
I mean, he is Queen's current frontman.
He is Queen's
like, as
current
much as
frontman.
they don't want to say it because they say it's Queen and Adam Lambert.
Yeah, but
Adam Lambert's
it's
fronting Queen.
Yeah, but the other
But there is only one Freddie Mercury.
No, of
Yeah,
course.
they're
And the
not
thing is,
Adam
course.
Lambert.
If
And
you-
they're not, and I mean, they're
No.
not writing any new music
yeah,
either.
and
They're
if you were to
touring
actually
with-
listen to Adam Lambert, he does not try and be Freddie Mercury.
No.
He does himself.
Here's my
Yeah.
question, and I know, like, and I only remember this because I don't know who the singer was at the time. But do you all remember when A Knight's Tale came out with Heath Ledger?
Yep.
And you remember they used a lot of the Queen songs in that movie?
Sure.
So there was they advertised one of the tours in the trailer on the video for A Knight's Tale of the Queen tour.
Mhm.
And I want to say it was like early 2000s. Who was the singer? Because I remember listening to some of the songs and going, "Oh, this isn't good."
I
Heath-
know Brian May, the guitarist, took over lead for a little while on a few songs. But in early 2000s, I think
They had
George Michael actually took over for a little bit.
They actually
toured
hired a guy that lasted like a few
minute.
weeks. Yeah, it wasn't very
There
long. It was enough
was-
to do some stuff with and then
He
end it.
was part of. Who sings "Jump"?
Oh,
Van Halen.
Van Halen.
I want to say one of Van Halen's singers was the singer.
None
was
of
the
Van
singer of
Halen
Queen.
singers have
Yeah,
that
I
range.
couldn't see that.
No.
It was. It was.
Well,
from
again, like I
another.
said, it wasn't very good. So
Yeah, they
Will's
needed somebody to do
massively
cocaine.
looking.
Van Halen's a place to look, but as far as singing, I don't think so.
no.
No, I
Yeah.
could have sworn there was a Van Halen singer.
Robbie Williams has opened up about the fact that he could have replaced Freddie Mercury as Queen, but turned it. Oh no, it wasn't him.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember like
Thank God for fact
Paul
checking.
Rogers? That
Paul Rogers, maybe.
Who is he?
who's Paul Rogers?
I'm pretty sure he was.
Queen and Paul Rogers, formerly the band Bad Company.
Maybe that. I knew it was from one of those.
Yeah, beginning. He
Yeah.
started in 2004, went on for the Return of the Champions tour for 2005 to 2006.
Yep, that would be
Yeah.
it.
He was there until 2000. So
Yeah,
it
I would
He was
not.
a
Paul
minute.
Rogers.
He was not my favorite like replacement for Freddie Mercury.
Mhm.
Just because like, and the funny thing is they used the Freddie Mercury versions in Knight's Tale, not
Yeah.
the,
Not the.
I'm
well,
sure. I mean, you look at the momentous like performances that they did with Freddie. You're not really gonna top a lot of that.
no, but a lot of times, especially like when like movies and stuff want to get a song, they'll have like another recording of it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so they don't have to spend as much money.
Yeah.
And I feel like they might have been like, yeah, why don't we just do a new recording with Paul Rogers so that way we don't have to pay as much for the Freddie Mercury cut. And they probably heard it and they were like,
Oh,
we're just
God,
gonna
no.
pay for the Freddie Mercury cut.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I don't remember Paul Rogers being very good as a Queen singer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, this has been our I love our banter, but we just spiral. Like we've
No,
gone from,
I've actually liked this.
no,
this has
it's one of those things, but like just how far we've gotten from the original
No,
topic,
I'm actually
which
okay
was,
with this.
And it's been 55 minutes.
No, I'm actually
Yeah, but
like.
most of that we were talking about all the Joe Sinnott stuff, and
Yeah.
like, and again,
Joe
like,
Sinnott didn't last too long, really. Like it did spiral out of control very
Well, it
quickly.
did.
I tried
But
to.
I
Like,
liked it
there
too. I
were
thought it
points
was
where
good.
we like
No,
went
we
back to
talked
it
about it.
and,
We
like,
th- we
first,
talked
but
about-
now we're on like Queen and
yeah, no,
Fine.
I think, but again, it's all the rates issues things that we get on, and
Yeah.
that just spirals into a whole nother.
I
Just
like-
I want to
like
put it
Paul.
down. I love Bohemian Rhapsody. Didn't think we had to film the entirety of the Live Aid performance, but that's fine.
It's
But the yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things. It's kind of like the same thing like my friend Paul, who actually Paul has been on this podcast. Paul actually.
Oh yeah.
Paul was on. But Paul, I remember the one time we were talking about like anime and like old school animation from like the 90s, where they'll just keep reusing a scene that they've already like colored, and like all the transformations on like Digimon or Pokemon or Sailor Moon, where like half the episode is them just transforming because the transformations are so long. And I feel like that's one of those things that's a time eater. It's like, well, we don't really have to do any work now. We know the script. It's just those songs.
Yep.
Just mimic everything you see in this video, Rami Malek.
Yeah, I mean, that's also like, I mean, they did a really good job of recreating it, but it was like,
it was like, why at that point, like honestly, at that point, the whole Live Aid like thing where they showed you the thing where they recreate the concert part, that should have been the credits, and like they should have just shown, the movie should have ended with him walking up on stage as Rami Malek and then coming out on stage as Freddie Mercury and then just playing that as the credits.
Throughout the credit. That would have been good.
Like it just showing
that would have actually been, that would have been nice and creative, and it would have been able to fit in there.
Yeah.
Instead of just like this extended footage of basically just something you can look up on YouTube, because I had already seen the Live Aid performance like 10 times on YouTube.
But the other thing too is like with the Rami Malek stuff, and I've seen him in interviews, and I feel like he was saying this because around the same time the Elton John movie was getting press.
Because that came out.
It came out after. It came out after.
It did. I saw it
but
later.
I remember I think around the time of them like filming the Elton John movie, it was like the same time they were like doing the press for Bohemian Rhapsody, and Rami Malek was like, yeah, I did a lot of like vocal training and I did a lot of training for the singing.
So what?
And
Learn how to lip sync?
And I sat there, I was like, you didn't sing in that movie. That was all Freddie Mercury.
He did a little bit. That scene in the beginning where he sings with them for the first time, that was the three of them really singing. And then I think, was it him that was singing when he was first playing the piano for Bohemian Rhapsody, or did they just take the...
That was Freddie, man.
Because I believe he did do some, but it wasn't like a lot.
And like the other thing too is it was because that was like when they were filming the Elton John movie, was when they were talking about how I can never, what's his name,
Etrigan something.
Yeah, Taggarton. Yeah, Taggarton was like, yeah, he literally sings every song in that movie.
Well, that movie's almost a completely different genre because, I mean, it's just a musical.
But the thing is, he actually sang all the Elton John songs, playing Elton John.
Yeah.
Taron Egerton.
Yeah.
He's also. I think they picked him because he was before this movie was even in a concept stages. He sang "I'm Still Standing" in the Sing movie, the animated movie where they're all singing the songs.
But that's my thing. I was like, I feel like the reason why Rami Malek was like making a point of like all the stuff that he did to prep for the movie was because Egerton was like, oh no, I'm singing every song in this movie.
Yeah, but some people got butthurt that he was actually singing.
I'm
sure.
Everyone got mad.
No. People legit did get butthurt that he was
really
lip singing.
Yep. Because he actually like does such an amazing job.
People got really angry.
I mean, also everybody was singing in that movie because again, like it was a musical. Everybody sang. For like no reason at all, like the agent would start like no,
but like, but to my point though, like he played Elton John and he sang the songs, you know. Whereas Rami Malek, like he sang in like 2 scenes, and then the rest of it was all them just being like, yeah, we're just gonna use all the Freddie Mercury stuff.
But also, it's like super hard to like replicate his voice, and I understand why they were doing it because they were doing a biopic, whereas Rocket Man was a musical. So you needed everybody to be able to sing those songs.
That kind of had bio.
Yeah, which, I mean, it was a biopic, and it had its own, like, historical inaccuracies.
My problem with biopics is that you try to span this person's life in 2 hours, when in reality, do what My Week with Marilyn did.
Just take a snapshot.
Take literally a small snapshot of a person's life and go to town.
I mean, they... Rocket Man kind of only did it up to a certain point when he first entered rehab, which apparently was way later than it actually was in the movie, and then Bohemian Rhapsody only did up to the Live Aid concert.
But Bohemian Rhapsody starts at the beginning.
I mean, when he first joins the band.
Yeah,
yes.
and then it just spirals.
And then it goes all the way to.
However,
so you have to cover.
Even though, yes, I agree in most cases do a snapshot because, it's a lot to cover in 2 hours. However, an amazing biopic, especially since we're talking about music stuff, the Ray Charles biopic with Jamie Foxx is absolutely amazing.
Was that you being like, yeah, or what were you doing? Oh, you don't like it?
You didn't.
I was vomiting.
Yeah, why?
Personally, because I've seen it and it is a good movie. Johnny Depp should have won that year. I sobbed at the end of Finding Neverland. Oh. I lost my ever-loving mind.
Oh, so you hate the movie because it won the Oscar over Johnny Depp?
Yep. I don't hate it, but I just don't think that...
Whatever.
Johnny Depp made me cry.
Okay,
I lost my ever-loving mind. Kate Winslet, oh, God. She got snubbed, too, for that role. Hard got snubbed.
I mean, biopics are...
comic books?
I just love how we're talking about You're just like, yeah, no.
If you want a really bad movie to watch, a very, the worst biopic that ever happened in the history of biopics. Lifetime did a Liz and Dick movie, which is Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. I don't care who played Richard Burton, because I don't remember his name. But Elizabeth Taylor is played by Lindsay Lohan.
Oh.
And it is awful. It is just a nightmare. And it's so bad, it's entertaining. And the best part about it is...
That sounds like most of Elizabeth Taylor's career, but
you
go
can
on.
get the fuck out of this building.
Hallmark does those... I think it's Hallmark. They do those unauthorized biopics.
They do them now with the royal family.
Yeah, they do. They did that with Britney Spears and Full House.
No, Britney Spears was Lifetime.
That was Lifetime. And she complained about that one too because they had to go over the whole her and Justin Timberlake thing.
And her going crazy.
Yeah.
The other fun thing about that biopic is Elizabeth Taylor never liked to be called Liz, so why you would put Liz in the title? Lazy fucks.
Maybe it was just a way for them to be like, yeah, don't take this movie seriously.
Probably. Although the Helena Bonham Carter one is good.
What time are we at?
An hour and 10.
1:03:40.
Cool. Can we take 10?
Sure.
I just want to get some water and I gotta pour you a couple. Oh. So yeah, I mean, what do we got next up on the agenda here?
Well, if you haven't heard already, Michael Keaton has apparently joined the new Flashpoint project that is 5 years in the works now?
Longer.
Flashpoint movie.
I mean, we've gone through 18 directors by now.
Yeah, because this is coming off the heels of the fact that Jeffrey D. Morgan was just announced to be part of the project, returning for Thomas Wayne. So now Michael Keaton is apparently confirmed to be coming back as a Bruce Wayne. We don't know.
Oh, because it's all going to be different versions of the
Batman
multiverse.
Beyond.
Most likely, yeah, it's going to be dealing with the multiverse, but we don't exactly have I mean, it's Flashpoint, so every comic book reader knows what Flashpoint was about and what it's for and why they're doing it.
Care to clue everyone in, Jeremy? What was Flashpoint about?
I was just going to ask you guys, what is Flashpoint?
Oh, that's what started the... Are you legitimately asking?
Yeah, he doesn't read DC.
Yeah. That was the precursor to New 52. That was DC going, all right, too much work to remember everything. Start over again.
No, actually, well, yes, that's the cover story. The real story is the fact that Warner Brothers came down and said, you guys aren't making any money. If you don't make any money in the next 6 months, we're going to come down here, we're going to mandate you to 13 titles a month, and we're going to run it. and we don't care about continuity or who's writing or drawing it. We're just going to
Weirdly
throw
enough,
people on
Dan
it."
DeVito didn't care about it either.
So they were like, "Oh man, what are we gonna do?" They're like, and they were like, "Oh, Jeff Johns, you have that Flash story you're doing. Okay, that's the event now. Make it an event." And he was like, "Okay." And it was it rebooted the entire universe to basically like, oh, the DC universe has only existed for 5 years. But then they couldn't make up their minds about what was going to exist in continuity. So for like 3 years, we spent like we didn't know what was and what wasn't.
Yeah.
The fun thing though was a while back, Michelle Pfeiffer turned around and she kind of broke her Instagram for a little bit.
Oh, because she showed the whip
She showed the whip
for Crisis.
for no. Oh no. She broke the whip because she came out. It was around the time of Maleficent 2, and someone asked her who would play Catwoman, and she jokingly said, "Well, me, of course." And then she turned around and, as bullshit, she publicly endorsed Elle Fanning just because she was in a movie with her right at that minute. And then, literally a few days later, she shows the whip on Instagram and says, "Look what I found." And then she said she posts a series of videos of her playing with the whip and cracking the whip, and she goes, "God, I still got it."
Yeah, but the whip thing, that was around the time that they were filming Crisis on Infinite Earths for CW.
Okay.
And that whip thing started right after they announced that there was going to be a cameo of her and Michael Keaton in. It was like leaked that they were going to be in it, and that's where the whip thing came from.
Were they?
No.
I
There's a reference to them.
thought there was a photograph in a newspaper.
There's about them getting married.
Yeah,
I don't recall a photo.
I
though.
thought there was a photo.
I don't think there was a photo, but it'd be kind of fun if, Michelle Pfeiffer, come on, the woman does not age. And, I mean, any project she's in, for Christ's sake, Ant-Man and the Wasp, that was some bad makeup on her part for them to be like, we have to make you look old. And you don't really look as old as we want because poor Michael Douglas looks like death warmed over. So we have to make you kind of old. I'm sorry about it.
I still, again, as much as I like Michelle Pfeiffer, I still say they missed a beat on that movie. It should have been Catherine Zeta-Jones. Straight up should have been Catherine Zeta-Jones. Because that would have just made more sense. And honestly, Catherine Zeta-Jones looks like she could be Evangeline Lilly's mother.
Oh, I agree. I thought you were going to go Batman. I was going to be like, you
No.
best have some hard evidence to
No.
support this sentence, because that is
No,
a
I was talking
broad...
about Ant-Man, dude.
No, I agree with that.
No, it should have been Catherine Zeta-Jones. But yeah,
Don't get me wrong. I love, live and breathe me some Michelle Pfeiffer, but no, I'll agree with that.
It's actually funny, like the original Catwoman, Julie Newmar. You know who she wanted to play Catwoman for the Batman movie originally? Who? She originally said the only person that she could ever see playing Catwoman besides her was Angelina Jolie.
Weird.
That was who she wanted to play Catwoman.
Was Angelina Jolie still even around at that time?
What are you talking about? When the Tim Burton Batman, when the
yeah.
second, yeah,
was she?
Yeah, she was like just starting out.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
That was after Gia. I'm pretty sure was.
I would have
Batman.
to look that up.
But yeah, but even then, like she was even like, and then Julie Newmar came out again and was even petitioning for Angelina Jolie to play Catwoman in,
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises, and honestly, I mean, I didn't mind Anne Hathaway, but I think that Angelina Jolie would have been a better pairing for Christian Bale.
That's the thing.
Because I don't think Anne Hathaway is even nearly as old as Christian Bale.
Oh, no. Not even close.
So that's the thing. I feel like, especially considering how high society they were trying to play Catwoman in that movie, that definitely would have been a role for Angelina Jolie.
I disagree.
Yeah?
Because you know what? The moments that Selena shines in that movie are those high society moments. That friggin' train scene alone. Dear God, if I did drag, I would have left that movie theater and been like, I need this outfit. I died when she walks on, or when she's trying to leave Gotham and she's got that big ass hat, the pant skirt suit thing, and oh God, she looked immaculate. she worked better for me as a Selena Kyle than she did as a Catwoman.
We might see her in Flashpoint.
We might, yeah.
I mean, she wasn't she wasn't present in the event itself.
No,
yeah.
she was.
She was?
She was Oracle.
Oh.
So it's like something happens where she's paralyzed. She's
Yeah.
working for the GCPD, and she's also feeding Thomas Wayne information.
Yeah. To clear it up a little bit for you.
Jeremy.
You're gonna have a lot to talk
Flash,
about.
Rick headshot.
Basically, Barry Allen decides one day, he's like, oh man, wouldn't it be dope if my mom was still alive? So he goes back and he saves his mom from being killed by Reverse Flash. And it creates an entire fractured timeline where things got really messed up. So you know how you break one point in time, the rest of it all kind of fractures? Ripple effect. So instead of Bruce Wayne
that,
surviving,
like, Ashton Kutcher thing.
Yeah, the butterfly effect.
Instead of Bruce Wayne dying, or instead of Bruce Wayne living through the shooting, Thomas Wayne lives through the shooting, and so does Martha
becoming the Joker.
Thomas Wayne becomes Batman. Martha becomes the Joker. It's a really interesting dynamic.
And the real creepy thing about it was like because Martha because she like completely goes crazy when Bruce gets killed. She's a child murderer.
Yes.
Her whole thing is that because she lost her child, everyone loses their child. And she just starts killing kids, and it was crazy.
It was
But the other thing, too, I want to point out something again, which really, like, upsets me about the Flashpoint stuff. And I'm very disappointed in Jeff Johns for this. Because up until Jeff Johns did Flash Rebirth, Barry's mom was alive. Like, the Flash Rebirth book is what killed her, and his, like he had both his parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was just this ridiculous, like, and, like, it kind of just blindsided everybody, because, like, everyone's like, wait, what? Like, wait, Barry's father was put in prison? Wait, Barry's mom is dead? When did this all happen? In this issue you just read? Like,
Enjoy.
It was just, like, it just came out of nowhere. And the thing that bugs me about it is, like, technically, by Barry going back and stopping Reverse Flash, doesn't that actually fix the timeline? Because they were never supposed to die in the first place.
Who knows?
Just saying.
It's all pre-crisis stuff, or
Yeah.
post-crisis stuff, but it was pre-New 52.
It's nonsense.
You read all of it, right?
Flashpoint?
Yeah.
Nonsense?
Not its entirety, but
Nonsense?
I did see the movie.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and Superman's like instead
In a box.
instead of crashing by the Ken farm, he crashes in the middle of a city, and the government takes him in, and they hide him in a
And
box
he's never seen
underground.
sunlight
And he's
before.
never seen sunlight.
So it's just this emaciated, like, literal alien.
So when they
looking
break
thing.
him out, he's like this scrawny like little.
He
twig.
can barely walk. You think he's gonna
like,
die?
So Barry's like, yeah, no, I know how we're gonna fix everything. We're gonna go to Superman. He's gonna fix everything, and they find out where Superman is, and then they break him out, and Thomas Wayne as Batman is like, is this the guy that we're supposed to get? And he's like, oh my God, Clark, what happened to you? And Superman, because he was never raised by the Kents, is like, who's Clark?
Yeah.
What's a Superman? And he's never seen sunlight, so when they break him out of the facility and get him in sunlight, the first thing that happens is his powers kick in. He goes haywire and like melts people's faces off with his heat vision because he can't control it, and he just flies away.
The other thing that always made me very happy is the Amazonian Atlantean marriage between Arthur and Wonder Woman, and then Mira's like, "This is a mistake. I'm going to kill Diana."
Well, no, because they had an affair, Aquaman and Wonder Woman.
No,
he marries.
So no, what happened was in the Flashpoint universe, they were betrothed because they were trying to make it was a brokerage of peace between the Amazons and the Atlanteans, because you do go back in DC history and you find out that the Atlanteans and the Amazons are actually from the same like bloodline, and they kind of separated, and that's why the Atlanteans are in the water and the Amazons are on land. And the whole thing was they were like making like a whole thing where they were going to get back together, and this was going to be like the big unification of the Atlanteans and the Amazonians. And Arthur didn't want to marry Diana, but he was doing it because he was a good king and all this other things. So he still had Mira
on the side.
and he was kind of telling so Diana like realizes that he's still in love with Mira, so she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna make this real simple for you, and she goes and ambushes Mira, cuts her head off, and gives it to Arthur as a wedding gift. And that was like when he was like, no,
It was
war
so-
with the Amazonians.
Yeah,
It was
Wonder
so
Woman
funny.
wears her like
Her tiara.
as
Yeah.
like a trophy to
Yeah.
like stick it in his
And
face.
then
Mira
he's like,
Mira wears a tiara.
He's like, no, war and death to the Amazonians, and then like at war for like ever.
Yeah, so there's a
was
giant.
so good.
It's kind of almost a three-way war between the Amazons, the Atlanteans, and then just everybody on Earth that's like, get away, leave us alone, because they're just fighting over like U.S. territories.
I want to say, okay, and again, spoiler for anyone who hasn't read it. And this might actually get Jeremy to read it, just because he's like this, because I can already see the gears. So he's like,
I can too.
This sounds so.
Does Ghost Rider show up?
Yes.
Yes.
7 times.
So you know.
Is it Robbie Reyes?
No.
No.
Oh.
But no. So you know how.
You had me at it's not Robbie Reyes.
You know. So you know how the whole deal with Captain Marvel in DC works, right? The Shazam character. How it's Billy Batson, he yells Shazam, and he transforms into Captain Marvel and all that jazz. So here's how it works in the Flashpoint reality. They're basically like the Captain Planet kids.
Yeah, there's like
So-
10 of them.
There's the 5 of them. The five.
Are they 5? No,
Yeah,
it's
the
like
fi-
the whole.
Yeah, it's the Batson kids.
Yeah.
It's the 5 kids.
Okay.
It's like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
And like so they
Wind,
all have
Fire,
to
Water, Heart.
so they all have to say Shazam, and they combine into turning into Captain Marvel. And what happens is Wonder Woman, who's getting her butt kicked by Captain Marvel, is like, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna stop this. And she like blindsides him and throws the lasso of truth around him and finds out how their powers work. And she goes, oh, well then de-transform. And he yells the keyword Shazam. And she goes, I'm gonna finish this. And just straight up just cuts Billy Batson in half with her sword. He's like, there you go. Now you can't transform.
Yeah, the 10-year-old. He's still 10 in this.
And
by the
she
way.
just straight up just guts him. She goes, huh, boom, done. Because they can't get back together in time to yell the word again. And it's just straight up just cold-hearted craziness. And you're like, oh damn.
And Captain Atom is a nuclear weapon, because I guess the U.S. government sent him into Atlantis, and they just lost contact with him. And you find out later he's just hooked up to a giant machine that's just the like start over machine. They just press it and he just blows everything up. That's it. We're done.
And the way and how Hal Jordan goes out in that story.
Oh yeah.
Because the whole thing with Hal is he's flying the Suicide Run to destroy the Atlanteans and the Amazonians. Because that's the other thing too. Like the people on Earth are so fed up with their war that the government's luring them to this spot to fight each other so they can nuke them. It's some crazy stuff. And I guess because like it's the classic like what is it? It's I can't remember the movie. It with Peter Sellers where like the guy like he like rides the bomb down when
RoboCop.
It's not RoboCop. What's wrong with you?
Who played RoboCop?
Peter Weller. Peter Weller?
Hold on.
Well, you can see why I got that confused now.
Peter Weller. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Peter Weller.
Peter Weller.
Yeah.
Peter Weller. Peter Sellers.
Completely different people. Stop.
No, not really.
It
Other
is
movie
actually.
who I
Peter
know him
Swellers.
from.
Anyway, but yeah, no. So like Hal Jordan just like he can't like get the bomb to launch. He can't get the rocket to launch from the plane. So he's like, "Oh, I love you, Carol," and just flies the plane right into it. And he's like, "Yep, I'm going out like a hero." Only
Yeah.
for it not to matter because they reset the universe again.
Because he takes Abin Sur's ship because he never becomes the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
It just like flies away.
But yeah, no, it's actually the Flashpoint story is actually really cool. The everything that's spun out of it is garbage.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean spun out of it? After?
Yeah,
Like New
Oh,
52.
New
Yeah.
52. New 52 was terrible.
I was going to say I
Yeah.
liked all the tie-ins, actually.
No.
But basically, that's becoming a movie because as
fix
everybody
everything.
clearly knows, Warner Brothers has no idea what they're doing, and they just want to get it over with, and they want to reboot everything so we can
That's not
just
what I wanted.
count it and recast and.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like honestly, and here's the thing: they're gonna mess it up because they don't have the history. They don't have
course.
everything set up. Like, stop trying to make the next Avengers movie and just make a Flash movie.
It's a good way though to
Yeah.
erase everything that we've done
With a new.
with a new cast.
Yeah, okay, except that
Yes.
they're not. But now, what's the point? Because you don't have to now. Because they're going back on everything that they did because now AT&T's in charge and they're like, actually, we like the Man of Steel and we like the Batman Superman movie. And why does Warner Brothers keep interfering with all this crap? We're putting out the Snyder Cut. Hey, Zack Snyder, also get ready to do Justice League Part 2 because that's what it's leading up to. So there's no point to even do a reset. There was a point to do the reset back when they were like, oh man, we got to get rid of all this dark universe stuff because we're just not vibing with it. And it's like, but now, like, what's the point of doing the Rob Pattinson Batman aside from maybe you could explain it away that it's Ben Affleck's Batman in the past, because they're already in talks that they're going to be doing Ben Affleck's Batman movie on HBO Max. They're going to film it as an HBO Max movie now. They're already in talk. They already got Henry Cavill to sign on for multiple Superman movies again. So what's going on with the J.J. Abrams Superman that he's supposedly doing?
I didn't know about that, but
It's a hot mess. Like, what is going on?
and we don't know what's even happening with most of the cast. I mean, there was a whole thing about, like, is WB trying to get rid of Momoa for some reason? There were, like, rumblings of them trying to get him out of the contract. Like, he didn't want to go, but they wanted him gone for some reason. It wasn't like he did something that, like, made everybody go, but, like, they just wanted a new Aquaman.
I think it was because he's, like, and he's actually, like, recently, I can tell you why. Because he was probably one of the most vocal people about them cutting Zack out of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was like, I actually like my version of Aquaman. He goes, I wouldn't have this version of Aquaman or even these opportunities without Zack Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, and he's even said recently, like, he's so happy and so excited about Zack Snyder being back because he feels like it's gonna actually make things more cohesive again.
I mean, I want to hope. I genuinely, though skeptical, I do want to hope that Snyder's thing is going to be good because I was excited for all the stuff that I learned that would have been in there. Because did you know that
Did you see the Dark Side clip?
I didn't see I saw the still.
Oh, you haven't seen the clip yet where Wonder Woman's in the room where she sees the painting of Darkseid?
Oh,
like
I
that.
saw like the beginning, but I didn't finish
Oh,
it.
no,
There
it's
is
actually kind of cool.
Do you know the general from Man of Steel, the black guy, the general? You know
Yeah.
that's Martian Manhunter?
No.
Is it really?
That's supposed to be. Yeah, it was supposed to be revealed in Justice League. That's Martian Manhunter.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Considering Zack Snyder was just trolling us then with the fact that he didn't like Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, no, that was
that's
supposed
kind
to
of an
just be him the
awesome-
whole time.
That's awesome.
There's deleted. They never. I don't think they ever filmed the scene, but they released the storyboards for it, and you see him like transform.
For all
Like
those
in
that
a scene
can't
that we're
see,
supposed to-
Devon's eyes just got wider.
Yeah,
Okay, you don't understand.
that was supposed to be Jean.
Martian Manhunter is one of my favorite DC characters and one of the most underplayed DC characters of all time. He is more powerful than Superman.
Yeah.
Straight up.
I mean, Superman has admitted on several occasions that he's genuinely just like
And-
afraid of Jean.
and again,
because,
like, here's the thing that really, again, and this is one of those things that bugs me. I hate the fact that we replaced Martian Manhunter with Cyborg. Okay? Because for all intents and purposes, John Johns on Earth.
I thought
He's
his
a
name
black
was-
man.
I thought his name was John Jones.
it is.
Well, it depends. There's certain ones that call him John Johns. Like, I
Oh.
know in like the old Justice League cartoon Unlimited and stuff, he's
They said
John Johns.
Jones.
I heard them say Jones.
I did too.
Maybe I
I heard
always-
them always say Jean.
Yeah,
I don't
Jean.
know. I'd have to rewatch the show. But
I'm pretty sure they say
You have DC access.
Well,
I do
regardless,
have DC Universe,
he's
yeah.
always been portrayed like in his human form as a black man. So I
the
kind
most part.
of I kind of sat there and
except
I kind of
like originally,
Yeah.
like when he was originally created. I mean, you know, he could be portrayed, but that's the thing. He could be portrayed by anyone because he's a shapeshifter.
but my thing was that if you like that was the thing that kind of bugged me and I was like, I didn't understand why we needed it to be Cyborg, other than they were like, we needed like color representation on the Justice League, and I was like, but you could have just had Martian Manhunter.
I mean, you could have just added more in later. Like, everybody knows
Yeah.
how the Justice League got together. You could just do it really fast and then just add more people in
The only
later.
thing that would like, or just like
'Cause-
have the Justice League form way later and just make Jon Stewart the Justice League member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't even have to start it. Like, we
How?
didn't actually need them to form the team in all their first years of being heroes.
Yeah. I mean, we also, like...
Because in the original Trinity story, did you ever read the original Trinity story for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman by
No.
Matt Wagner?
No.
They're all in, like, Batman's in his, like, third or fourth year because he already has Robin.
Uh-huh.
And Superman and Batman are already friends.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, yeah, like, we should get together. I've been hearing about, and I think it's Superman who knows them both individually, and he's the one who kind of puts them together. He's like, yeah, I brought her to help. And he's like, who the heck is she? And, like, it just kind of starts this kind of, like, this team. And then because they team up, that's how the Justice League, at least in the post-crisis continuity, how the Justice League forms.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole thing. I don't know what DC's whole thing about not letting Cyborg be a Titan anymore. Like, what's up with that?
I don't know.
Like,
Considering the Titans are probably, like, a more cohesive team than the Justice League's ever been.
the closest that we've gotten in the past couple of years, they nod to it at the end of, I believe it was Judas Contract. He, like, kind of joins the
Yeah.
team, but then
in the animated movies?
yeah, and then in Flashpoint, or not Flashpoint,
Apocalypse War?
Apocalypse War, he's back on the League. But then in Young Justice, he's a part of the team because they just introduced him in season 3, the past
Yeah.
season, and
But
he's like a big proponent of the team.
But again, like, I mean, why, if you're really going to do this, why even have limited the number of people on the Justice League to 7 people? Why didn't you just make it an even 8?
Yeah,
I mean, aside from the fact that it's like it's always been named the Founding 7, but if you
Yeah.
really wanted it, you could have just added a new member and just made Cyborg the new member and had the original 7.
yeah. I mean, all in all, though, back to the movies. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to what we'll get because, all in all, I want to say that it won't be anything worse than
what
what
we've
we
gotten.
got.
Well, the problem, I mean, the
You
other,
say that.
Because
the
it
other-
wasn't good.
Hold my beer.
I don't
I
know,
like-
it's partially written by Ezra Miller.
Ugh.
It's
I
co-written by Ezra Miller.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm
how
talking
good
about
can that be?
Snyder's Justice
Oh,
League.
yeah.
Not Flashpoint. I don't think if they, God honest, if they even keep Ezra, I don't think I'm gonna see it. I don't want to support it. I don't want anything
Well, he's
to
gonna
do with
he's
it.
gonna be in the Justice League Snyder cut. Like, that's all film.
Yeah.
It's all just him doing the special effects and finishing scenes.
Yeah, well, he's just doing. They're getting the cast back to do overdub lines and stuff. Like, they're not going into the studio and
No.
putting on like CGI costumes so they can like reenact scenes. They're just
No,
getting in a
because
booth and
because
like.
the thing,
Yeah.
but that's the thing, and like I said before, when you get down to it, when they talk about it, it's 4 hours of footage that was done. It was all filmed.
Yeah.
Like, and like all the reshoots are done by Joss Whedon because they had to bridge scenes that didn't make sense anymore.
Remember when we were supposed to have a Green Lantern movie this year? Wasn't this year supposed to be the last year of the original planned DC Universe movies?
knows?
Dude, who knows?
Because
anymore?
it was Green Lantern and Cyborg were supposed to be this year, but by this point we should have had a Flash, another Wonder Woman, another Justice League, Batman.
Well, why was Wonder Woman pushed back an entire year? I don't remember. Was it effects or was it filming schedule?
I don't know.
I
I
don't-
wonder if they'll. I really liked Shazam though. I hope they'll do stuff with that.
I just can't bring myself to watch it. Everything I see in the
It's a
trailer,
fun
I
time.
just hate it.
It's a predictable time, but it's a fun time. I'll tell you that. I had a lot of fun with it. I enjoyed the stuff it set up. I enjoyed the stuff Aquaman set up. So I'm looking forward to that. I was just, if they can get themselves back on track with this new Snyder cut and just go with that, if it's good, because like I said, I enjoyed Man of Steel. Fell asleep during BVS. So it's kind of up in the air for me. It could be 50-50. So I'm going to go in with an optimistic but skeptical approach.
Do they have all the DC movies on the streaming service?
No. I have no idea what I'm paying for at this point because now they're putting half of their stuff onto HBO Max. So what the hell am I paying? I'm basically just paying to watch Young Justice. Like, that's it. They're not even putting most of the animated movies on the streaming service.
Again, that's another big thing is, like, they're a whole mess right now, HBO Max, because AT&T is like, yeah, we want to just make it one streaming service. And DC is like, yeah, but we also stream all our comics on there because it's all our digital content. And everyone's like, we don't care.
And no one wants to read the comics on the streaming
No, and who wants to read their comics on, like, a TV?
Yeah, that's weird. Don't.
Shame on you, Jeremy.
I don't know.
Shame on
it's
you.
just...
There's some things that I kind of want to see on my screen now that you've put that out there. I still want to own it. But, like, I kind of want to read Dark Phoenix Saga on a huge television.
Yeah, it's called X-Men the Animated Series from the 90s.
She lives at the end of that.
That's the original ending.
I know, but...
That's the original Claremont and Byrne ending. And they had to have it changed because Marvel was like,
Jean
you
killed
can't let her get away with killing an entire planet.
Galaxy.
Was it a galaxy?
Galaxy.
Okay.
Yeah, they...
Yeah, she
Well, in the show, it was a planet.
She
and it was
eviscerates a friggin' galaxy.
With everything that's gone on, I want to see what we can do with this. I don't think the Flash movie will ever get off the ground.
No.
I kind of hope not.
Because now they've lost so many people, they're turning to Ezra Miller to now write half the movie.
Which is also co-written by Grant Morrison. So it's Grant Morrison writing a movie.
Yeah.
I don't think he's actually co-writing. I think Ezra Miller wanted to get, like, his
The
opinions on
last
things.
thing I read was that he was...
Just get that guy. I mean, not that I didn't even like his... I didn't even like his portrayal of Barry Allen to begin with, but, like, at this point,
like Ezra Miller.
The guy's, like, such a D-bag in general with everything that went on in Europe, over the point of him choke-slamming that woman. I mean, like, and there's been nothing about it. It's just become such a... I gotta recollect my thoughts here.
You're doing great.
It's become such a big thing around him, like the controversy and just the non-acknowledgement of anything that's gone on with him.
Well,
and just being like, well, we're doing the Flash movie. It's like, why at this
you
point?
Hate me.
Like, you've lost everybody. Your main actor has now been under the rugs, been canceled for, like,
well, the other thing too is, like, they yeah, I mean, they've lost everybody in terms of contracts. Like, everyone's like, well, my contract for this role is expired, and I mean, that's fine.
I'm just saying for the Flash movie, not for Justice League.
No, for the Flash movie I'm talking about.
Yeah,
because, like, they had a whole bunch of actors already contracted to play people, and now, like, it's been so long and the script's changed like 5 times, so it's just,
and they're on their... I don't think they have a director at this point.
It's probably gonna be Ezra Miller.
They've been through 6. Yeah, Ezra Miller's just gonna play
I hope
everybody.
it'll be Alan Moore.
I like the fact that they even kept Ezra Miller for Justice League, considering the fact that he was too lazy to actually, like, make himself look like the Flash in the BVS movie.
Yeah,
like that whole scene where he's in the convenience store
and he's got that
long hair and the
yeah.
mullet. Yeah, that was because he just didn't feel like changing out of his outfit for the movie he was currently filming.
Which was Harry Potter.
No, Harry Potter was the bowl cut he got for Justice League.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he just doesn't change his, like, look for the other
That's
movies.
fun.
Like, he what was it? I want to say,
but that's like a similar thing to like the stash, the super stash that made Superman look like a fucking alien.
Once again, though, I just want to point out I would not have noticed that if no one had told me about it.
It's only in that, but it's only in that opening scene.
No,
when
it's
he
in
comes
that entire
back,
end point when he comes back.
No, it's more when he comes back. You can see it, but it's for me. I wouldn't have noticed it until, like, someone had pointed it out.
You notice it in the opening scene of the movie.
You do notice it in the opening scene of the movie.
I've seen it once.
But also in the end, where in a lot of the shots you can tell, and I was like,
see,
that looks
But you see,
wrong.
that's a little different, though. The Henry Cavill thing is definitely a little bit more different because he was still actively filming
That was
And
also a
Mission Impossible.
studio decision. The studio came back and said, no, he cannot shave this mustache.
Yeah, because
No.
it was going to take him weeks to grow it back.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like one that they just glued on. He grew it.
Yeah. They even offered to give him like a prosthetic one after he shaved it, and they were like, no. No, he's getting the real one.
Well, I
It's
also think
just-
that's also, it might be like, a lot of people are actually allergic to things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also takes like half a day to get it off of you.
Yeah. I don't know. That universe is such a mess. I wonder what they're going to do. I'm sure they're going to continue a lot of. It all depends on what the reception of the Snyder Cut will be. And I'm hoping it won't be a blind optimism just because of everyone's campaign of release the Snyder Cut. It's going to be amazing. So we'll just have to see what it ends up coming out to be.
I think it's one of those things where we're going to see a lot of people. It's going to be one of those things that's going to get more out of it, because you're going to see a lot of people are going to be like watching it. I mean, it's just like things like Futurama, that once it got syndicated and once people started watching more of the reruns and buying the DVDs, it got so much traction that people were like, "Oh wow, people actually want more of this." I think that's exactly what's going to happen with the Snyder
Adventure
Cut.
Time.
Yeah, Adventure Time. That's right. They are doing that on HBO Max too, which is such a weird place for it to be.
Wait, they're making more?
Yeah, they're
There's
doing a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think there's 3 of them coming.
Yeah.
Didn't like it end with like Finn ascending to being a god or something?
No.
I heard like weird things about the ending. Either way,
But yeah, no, I think we're gonna have to see how it all turns out. We're gonna see how, I'm optimistic about it. I'm actually like, having heard all the stuff that's supposed to be in this movie or was gonna be in this movie, and all the stuff that like wound up on the cutting room floor because they needed it to be a 2-hour movie and change, and not like the movie length it was supposed to be. I was like, all right, I'm all game for this now, because most of the time, every time I want to say 90% of the time I watch a director's cut, I'm like, why wasn't this the version you showed me? Because
Yeah.
if you did this in the theaters, this movie would have done well.
this is the Justice League. Like, I forget which one of my friends made this joke, but every DC movie has a We're Sorry edition, which is just the director's cut of the We're Sorry, we forgot about this part.
Well, that's like, the director's cut of Daredevil is an infinitely better movie.
I never
Yeah.
saw it.
But it's like BVS had the Ultimate Edition, and I think Suicide Squad
Yeah,
got
but
one, and now Justice League's
No,
getting
Suicide
one.
Squad got like an extra couple of minutes, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even stuff that people wanted. It was
Yeah.
like,
It wasn't the Joker
But it was
footage.
still like an
yeah.
extended
Which,
cut.
by the way, if the Justice League version does well, I really, really, really do, and I know like, because this is my standpoint on this. I want the Joker edition of Suicide Squad, and I say this because Jared Leto was not on screen long enough for me to make an accurate like review of what I felt of his Joker.
I agree with
Everything that he was on screen, he grunted, and I was like, he had like no lines. I was like, how can I even make any type of judgment on his portrayal? And all the scenes that they set that people have seen that were cut are like amazing scenes. I was like, why wouldn't you put this in the movie?
Well, we'll see if we ever get
Yeah.
that.
And especially the thing where they cut out the scene where he throws her out of the helicopter. Because that was the whole thing, was she wants to go back for her friends, and he gets mad at her, slaps her around, and throws her out of the helicopter.
Yeah.
And then when he crashes the helicopter, he ambushes them in the sewer with a grenade, and he's like, you're coming with me. And she's like, no. And he goes, well, fine, then you can all die. And he chucks the grenade at them.
Does he still come back for her at the end?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would
Pretty
imagine
sure that's
so.
what Jared Leto's like in real life.
Oh, yeah.
I have a we don't have time to get into the whole movie, but I watched Justice League Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which I can get into next time. One question I have to say, because I'm not familiar with the King Shark character.
I already heard. I don't even want to talk about it.
No, not that part.
Okay.
Throughout the entire movie,
Get it.
King Shark just says, King Shark is a shark. That's all his dialogue is up until the end, where he finally turns, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, to Captain Boomerang, and he goes, "It has been an honor serving with you." And Captain Boomerang looks at him and goes, what the fuck? And then they die. But has it ever been a point of King Shark's character that all he says is King Shark is a shark? Or were they just doing
I
an
don't
I am
know.
Groot
They
bit?
might have just been doing a bit. I mean, that's like a common thing they do in certain movies. Like, have you ever seen Lock, or not Lock, what was it? Not Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. What was it? Gone in 60 Seconds, the remake with Nicolas Cage.
Mm.
There's like the one guy, the Irish guy that they have working with them. The whole movie, he doesn't say a damn word, and then he's like, and at the end of the movie, he gives like this speech about like them being family and friends and this, and Nicolas Cage's response to it is like, "Dude, I thought you were from like Long Beach or something," because they never heard him talk.
Yeah. Well, the whole movie, he just goes, King Shark is a shark. And they're like, great input, man. Nice.
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
And none of them are appropriate.
All right.
That's fine. But yeah, no. So I guess, one of the things that we started doing before, like our things that we would wrap up the show with before the whole, us going on hiatus thing was, what's everyone reading and enjoying right now? What are some recommendations for the listeners out there? Any input, Jeremy? What are you reading right now that you're enjoying?
Rick.
Yeah, Rick. What?
Rick Headshot.
Richard
Headshot. That's right. So, what's your input here, Richard? What are you enjoying?
New books, Ludocrats.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
it's crazy.
I don't even know how to describe this book. Just pick it up. Octopuses with syringes. That should get everybody.
Go for it.
I like the thing where he was like, again, like this is a slight spoiler, but it might get more people to read it. Like, there's this random scene where he's like, the main character turns around and just starts yelling. He goes, and now I must go avenge the person I only met a panel ago. And like that's like the whole driving force of the story is like and it's just like this whole commentary on like all these like movie and TV tropes of like, you just met that guy, but you're like real gung ho about going to like take revenge for him. It's just weird.
Yeah. No, I think Ludocrats is great. We're 2 issues into that. Mountainhead just keeps getting better and better, but I think we only have 1 issue left.
I think the trade for the first couple issues of Mountainhead's out, so we can definitely get the trade paperback.
I don't know. I couldn't recommend those 2 anymore.
Nice. William, what have you been reading that's been good?
Or
even stuff you've already read that's like older that you might want to recommend? Anything interesting that maybe might be off the beaten path or
something that was off the beaten path. This is a long time ago, but if anybody's into the Injustice video game, Injustice 2, the comic series was really good.
Now,
filling in that gap.
Which was better? Was the original Injustice better or the Injustice 2 comic series? Like,
oh, that's really hard. I don't know. I guess it's like Injustice has more pros, I guess, because you can just jump into that because it's like the beginning and then the 5 years. With Injustice 2, you kind of have to know what's going on.
And there's a smaller gap of time, right?
It's also a smaller gap, so there's less material for you to have to absorb, but it's also like more material that you have to know ahead of time going into it.
The best stuff actually out of the original Injustice stuff, and again, I stopped reading for a while. That Dick Grayson getting his neck broken by the Rock thing, still I can't.
Yeah.
But all the Green Lanterns.
Richard Headshot.
The Green Lantern stuff for Injustice.
Oh.
That stuff is insane.
Yeah, there's
Like,
stuff they do with
dark.
that. But speaking of Dick Grayson, I definitely want to talk to you later what they did with Dick Grayson and Justice League Dark Apocalypse, where it's really the Dick and Damian dynamic is very interesting.
And like the brotherly love kind of thing, or
a good interesting, or a...
No, it's a good interesting.
Okay, because the way you were adding things, I was like,
please don't tell me that we're gonna find out that Dick Grayson's really Damian's father, because that'll just break me.
No.
Okay, thank God.
But
you're about to ruin my life for a second here.
Yeah.
DC already tried to do that with Deathstroke, and it didn't work.
With the thing is, but in terms of just pop culture, or not pop culture, but like comic book related things. I definitely recommend you, as the listener, check out Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. We're not sponsored by DC at all, nor will we probably ever be.
Not from the commentary we give on this podcast.
Not well. Scott Snyder's still involved.
But if you're a big proponent of the DC animated movies, this is the final chapter because they kind of all follow a consecutive story if you watch them in the order they came out, starting with Crisis on Two Earths, I believe, begins the universe, and then it gets rebooted with Flashpoint, and then they have all their movies, and now we're getting... Because the Dark Apocalypse War is the end of this universe, we're getting the 2 new movies, which is the Deathstroke movie. I don't know what the title is. It escapes my mind at the moment.
A trailer
and
for it.
Superman Man of Tomorrow.
The Man of Tomorrow movie looks so good.
And I'm sure you're excited because Martian Manhunter is also going to be in the movie. He's in the trailer. So those movies have the exact same animation style, so I'm assuming those are the 2 movies that are kicking off this new universe, which I'm excited to see.
So I guess Zachary Quinto is going to be playing Superman.
Quinto.
Is it Quinto? I've heard it pronounced different ways.
Oh.
I've gotten yelled at by his boyfriend
For calling him Quinto.
No, for multiple things. But yeah, that's a different story.
Just for everyone listening, Steve apparently knows Zachary Quinto and his
enough.
boyfriend.
Not well enough.
Well, if you stop making fun of the art that hangs in their house, they wouldn't yell at you.
I don't know which one of these guys.
I make fun of the wood project that's in their living room.
Does he actually have the latex bodysuit from American Horror Story?
Oh,
he's not in that.
Apparently,
Zachary Quinto's in the first season of American Horror Story.
I know he's in that, but he's not in the latex bodysuit.
Yes, he is. That's where they get the latex bodysuit from. They're the story.
Oh, that's right. They're the household.
Steven actually has not been in Zachary Quinto's home.
I have not.
Please disregard all of this last.
Really, this is what we're talking about? I wanted to punch Tori Spelling in the fupa. And now we're gonna start with
but
this.
Zachary Quinto might actually listen to a comic book podcast, especially one for like locality because he lives around here. But however, so yes, definitely, that's awesome stuff. I'm actually kind of interested in watching the Justice League Dark movie. Steve, what have you been reading and watching, or appropriate things that you've been watching, Steve? Your eyes went wide, I've been watching a lot of stuff.
Well, if we're just talking about watching quickly, everyone should be watching Hannibal on Netflix. That way I can get either a movie or a season 4, which Brian Fuller has come out and bluntly said, I would love to do a little thing, like half a season or 10 episodes or movie. Everyone should watch it. Comic book wise, my brain is just gone. I have been going down a rabbit hole of horror. Sleeping Beauties came out, which was a lot of fun and weirdly beautiful.
Which everyone out there, just so you know, Owen King did stop in and signed our copies of Sleeping Beauties. Owen King is the writer of the original novel he co-wrote with his father.
Stephen King.
So, yes, Stephen King. So he actually came in and actually was kind enough to sign the copies we have in the store. So I think there's a couple left. So if anyone wants to stop in and pick it up, stop and pick that up.
He's got a good signature too. I'm just gonna throw that.
I think that about does it for tonight. Tonight's lovely. Oh,
fuck Devon.
You gotta go.
Yeah, let's forget about any type of
host.
recommendation I have.
Devon, what you got for us?
No, Will. I don't think I want to tell you now.
All right.
I feel like you're not worthy enough of a recommendation. No.
He's gonna give it to you anyway, though. God damn it.
I went to the page to pause it. I was like, all right, I guess we're done.
Surprise.
No. I would definitely recommend right now anything written by Jeff Lemire.
Killer Smile. The Many Deaths of Vic Sage.
The Many Deaths of Vic Sage, the question book, is awesome. I would definitely recommend that. I definitely would recommend Killer Smile, especially considering the big reveal that happens in Batman Smile Killer, which
I have not read yet.
How he's ending it there, I don't understand.
I'll
I'm not going to tell you. I don't understand. But everything he's doing for the Black Hammerverse is awesome. I'm so happy that those books are finally coming back in September. That's going to be great. And anything written by Jeff Lemire. Go for Jeff Lemire. That is Heck, his Animal Man series for DC is awesome
For
too.
New 52, mind you. That's how much Devin likes it.
Yes,
It was a New 52
it was.
storyline.
And the first 18 issues of Swamp Thing, which surprisingly are written by Scott Snyder, are also decent for New 52. Everything after is terrible. In my personal opinion, if anyone out there likes it, more power to you. But yeah, so that seems like it's going to be a wrap. This has been Devin.
Will.
The mother of all unicorns.
Richard Headshot.
See you later, guys.
Bye.